and welcome to another Cliff's List webinar. And tonight, my special guest is Brad P. Brad has to be one of the more successful guys in the seduction community who has overcome some very interesting challenges in order to achieve his own success, and then became probably one of the most well-known and successful coaches out there. Brad, for those who don't know you, maybe you can give a little bit of an introduction. I mean, we know each other a long time. You spoke at my last convention, and
Yes,
that's quite a while already ago. But
yes, yes.
why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and I guess your history and where you were with women and how you've sort of come along, because that's a really fascinating story.
Yeah, so I've been at it a long time. I've been a professional coach for about 12 years now. But for me, the story really began when I was younger, when I was a kid in high school and college, just being very unsuccessful with women and kind of striking out all the time. And, you know, for me, I had a lot of social anxiety. I grew up around a lot of alcoholism, and it's kind of a symptom of being a child of alcoholic that you'll get a lot of social anxiety. So I went through most of my formative years being very socially withdrawn. And, by the time I was in my junior or senior year of high school, I was kind of just dying to date girls and I was dying to have sex, but it just didn't happen for me because I was so socially withdrawn. And I tried other things to get girls' attention. I started being an athlete and playing in rock bands, and it just didn't work for me because you just have to talk to girls. Social skills are more important than all the things you might achieve. And I was a straight A student, and that didn't help, and just nothing helped for me. So I kind of went along in this very unsuccessful way, being very socially anxious until my late 20s, at which time I kind of decided to just do whatever it takes to learn the skill of meeting women. And this was, I guess, before the seduction community was really well known. I'm talking like 2003, 2002. That's when I started learning, and I hadn't read anything from the seduction community. I was just kind of going out on my own. The only thing I had read was a book from Robert Glover called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And there was this one little part of the book where he said, hey, if you want to get women and being nice to them isn't working for you, why don't you just go out and hit on women every day? It's not illegal. You're allowed to do it. You won't go to jail or get deported. And I thought that it was like he was speaking directly to me, because the only women I had met were friend zoning me because I was so nice to them. And I would say, hey, do you want to go on a date or be my girlfriend? They'd say, no, you're really nice. I wouldn't want to do that with you. And that made no sense to me because I always thought that women wanted a guy who was nice to them. So it was completely baffling that they had no interest in me. And what I found out later was that the word nice guy and you're nice, I mean, women use it in a different way than men use it. And people have a lot of different, it's a very loaded statement, being a nice guy. And what I found out was, it wasn't going to make women sexually attracted to me. So I had to try other things. So I just went out and tried to talk to girls 7 days a week for, almost, I think I was at it almost a year. I'm talking to 10 or 20 girls a day, and that's how I learned. And along the way, I met some guys who were good at it, and they were naturals, and they weren't from the seduction community either. And I learned some things from them, and I interviewed them. And when I did find the seduction community, I had already been a coach for about a year. And some seduction community students came to my seminars, and they were like, hey, you need to check out this website, Cliff's List and Fast Seduction. And I said, get lost. I teach my own thing. I don't want to do that. But I eventually saw the light of day and decided to check it out. And then I found that it was a great environment because people support each other in the seduction community. It's a great place to find a wingman. And there's a lot of respect for new knowledge. So I tried to take everything I learned from the naturals and from all my field experience and give that to the seduction community on Fast Seduction at Cliff's conference. And that was a really good thing for me because it got my name out there more. I mean, my seminars had always been full even before the seduction community, but it allowed me to travel because I was only well known in New York at the time. So it's been quite a journey since then, Cliff. You really gave me my first big break. You know, when I came and did your conference, I had only done, 20 and 30 person seminars before that, and I mostly was teaching in the top floor of a pizza place in Manhattan. So it was pretty cool to come up and talk to a few hundred guys, up north where you're at. So it was really fun.
Well,
So I never forgot you, buddy. Never forgot you for that.
well, I'm glad to hear that, of course. Um, one of the things I kind of had noticed about you, which you really sort of haven't sort of mentioned here, is there's a rare talent or gift, I think, for some people to self-correct themselves, and I think that you had that gift. From while you mentioned learning from naturals and all of this, a lot of experience. A lot of guys can go out and just keep making the same mistakes over and over again, maybe with a slightly different angle to it. But my impression of you is that you had this gift for self-correction, which I've seen in very few people, but it's a very precious thing, really a gift, I think. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember when I was first learning and things were disastrous, I was correcting a lot of stuff. And for me, it's really about having an open mind. Be open to the things that you think won't work. Be open to new things that people tell you and test them all out. And while you're testing them, you're going to learn amazing things you never would have learned. So I would go out, the first thing I tried when I read No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it said go out and hit on girls every day. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And I ran out the next day and hit on 10 girls. And I said to them, a bunch of stuff that didn't work. I said, hey, I think you're really pretty. Well, that didn't work. Hey, can I take you out to dinner? That didn't work. And when I say that didn't work, I would try that on like 20 girls, 30 girls. I mean, I think I went fairly direct on, 100 or 200 girls before I decided to try other stuff. So part of the reason that I self-correct so much is because I have more trial and error than most people. How many people do you know that'll go try something on 100 girls and then change it? So I had a lot of, I'd try it, change it. I told my brother about this, and my brother said, well, maybe girls have just heard that stuff before too often. Like, maybe you should try to tell them something they haven't heard before. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So I went out and I dropped all this, let's go out to dinner, you're really pretty stuff. I dropped all that and I started saying, hey, do you know any place where I could get some cotton candy around here? Just because I thought they wouldn't have heard that before. And it worked so much better. And the reason it worked better was because, I know this now because I have so much experience. When you say to a girl, you're really pretty, or can I take you out to dinner? They're ready for that. They have a defense ready for that. And I call it a auto rejection script. People talk a lot about scripts in the seduction community, and girls have scripts too. So when a girl automatically rejects you without even considering you at all, they run a script and it goes something like this. Oh, thanks, but I have a boyfriend. No, we're lesbians. Those are the two most common auto rejection scripts that girls run. So by changing to something they haven't heard before, this little cotton candy opener, I was able to eliminate a girl's ability to automatically reject me without even thinking about it. And she had to then think about the question, really give me a good look, and really think about whether she was interested in me or not. And that was a huge move forward for me because girls do get hit on a lot. I mean, attractive girls get hit on thousands of times, and they're just not going to even listen if it's something they've heard before. So that was my first self-correction, I guess, as you called it. And I just continued to self-correct from there. And I got better at it. Instead of trying something 200 times before I fixed it, I eventually started fixing stuff after only 10 or 15 times. Because I figure if something goes wrong
3 times, 4 times, it can be a fluke. Or even if something goes right 3 or 4 times, it can be a fluke. But if something goes wrong or right 15 times, you can really read into that, and you could draw conclusions from that. And that's what I try to do. Test stuff, see how it works, observe girls, and draw conclusions. And that's what I built my whole method on, the method that I teach to my students, stuff that works in the real world. And I had to abandon all the things that I want to work but don't work. You know, there's things that we wish would work, like telling a girl she's pretty or asking her out to dinner. I was hoping those would work. My grandmother used to say to me, oh, if you meet a nice lady, ask her out to dinner, you know, and that doesn't work. But I wanted it to work because I didn't know what else to do. But part of learning is abandoning all the things that most average people say. You know, the thing average people say, tell a girl she's pretty. Well, test it, it doesn't work, throw it away. You got to be willing to throw stuff away and kind of be open-minded to weird stuff. What I eventually found was the weirder stuff that I would say to girls that was, you know, getting farther and farther from anything they've heard before, the weird stuff worked better. And then when I started teaching it to students, it worked better for them too. Because not only did it eliminate a girl's ability to auto-reject, it also became more thought-provoking, and we'd infuse sexual things and attractive things in there as well. So auto-correcting, or self-correcting, I should say, was my main way of doing that, and modeling myself after the naturals who I met as well.
Very interesting. What can you tell me about, you know, how your self-correcting has kind of like increased and improved over the last few years? Like what new developments have you found that really work more now that you've had all this time and experience doing all of this?
Well, I've done a lot of trial and error on coaching in the last few years because you know, picking up girls is a really interesting art form, of course, but teaching people to pick up girls is also an interesting art form, and it's very, very difficult, I think, to be a good teacher. To know something is one thing. To be able to get someone else to learn it, that's really tough. But as far as just picking up girls, I found a new thing that my students really like. You know, in the seduction community, they have this whole debate about scripted material versus natural material, and everybody wants natural material to work. They want it to work better. A lot of people don't like the idea of scripted material, but you know, if you take this stuff out into the field, you know, the scripts, they just perform better. So I've been trying to meet my students halfway and give them like a framework that's different that sounds a little different to every girl, but it's a framework that the student can, you know, it's a script to him, but it's not a script to the girl. So it's kind of half scripted. So I'm going to give you one of these half scripted openers. And I've found that it works great for my game, and it works great for students as well. I'll walk up to girls and I'll say, hey, there's a new rule. You're not allowed to wear tall black boots on weekends anymore. I don't know why. It's a weird rule. I heard about it on NPR as I was driving here. Apparently, if you're wearing tall black boots on the weekend, they can give you an $80 fine. I think it's some kind of anti-terrorism thing or something. So this kind of thing will get a girl's attention, and you'll customize it to every girl you meet. So if a girl has a red jacket on, you'll tell her no red jackets allowed. If there's 4 girls, you'll say, hey, there's a new rule. Women aren't allowed to hang out in groups of 3 or more. It's against the law now. I think it's because of the environment. So it's kind of a made-up story, and that's one of the cool things about it. The girl will kind of like not be sure whether you're serious or whether you're joking, and that gray area where the girl doesn't really know, that allows you to take dominance in the situation. If you walk up and you say, you know, for example, you're really pretty, the girl knows what's going on. She's got the upper hand. She auto rejects, and that's it. Game over. there's a new rule. You're not allowed to wear this or that. The girl's like kind of off guard. She's like, I don't know if this guy's serious or if it's a joke or, you know. So we've had a lot of success with students with using this half scripted stuff, and the guys aren't too worried about getting caught or getting busted and all those things that beginners worry about that never really happen, but you know, people are scared of them. So that's one thing I've kind of self-corrected in my teaching in the last few years, as well as it's improved my game as well.
Well, what have you noticed and learned about helping the students that you have that makes your teaching become more effective now? Again, with all that experience, you've probably done a lot of trial and error in what works and what doesn't work. What do you find really helps the students become more successful in learning what you're trying to teach them?
Yeah, the best thing I can do these days, the most effective teaching method I've ever really found, and you know, I don't think people are going to like this, but again, it's not about what you like, it's about what works. If I can get students to just turn their brain off and follow the instructions and do what, you know, stick to the game plan and take action, that's what works the best. I had a session a couple months ago where, you know, me and the student were doing day game in Hollywood, and this guy's, you know, my student has a lot of ideas and he's talking about this and that, and his brain is very creative. You know, he's a very creative guy, and he's got all these reasons why this will work or all these reasons why that'll work, and it's all hypothetical, and you know, he's debating this stuff in his own head. And I think that's a lot of what's wrong with the seduction community, actually. Too many people debating things, too many people everything's hypothetical. Would this work or wouldn't it work? Or what if she blows me out? Or what if I get busted? Sometimes you just need to shut the fuck up and go hit on girls, take an opener or two openers and just hit on like 5, 6, 7 girls in a row. Boom, boom, boom. Don't stop in between. Don't think. Don't try to talk yourself out of it. A lot of guys who are new, all they need to do to talk themselves out of it is just stop opening. Then they're thinking and they're like, well, what if somebody sees me? And they start to get all that, you know, unrealistic thinking that's fearful, and it stops you from taking action. So best thing I've really seen lately is just to tell a student, you know, all right, let's do an opener. Here's your opener. You know, do you like it? Okay. You like it? Let's hear it. Try it. Let me hear it. And I'll listen to it, correct a few things, and then boom, hit on as many girls as you can as fast as you can. That's what really works. That's when they get results. They start to learn stuff. And by not taking breaks in between approaches, they're able to avoid that icky, you know, area where they're thinking too much and they're getting all hypothetical and philosophical, and that's a lot of what's wrong with the seduction community. Like I said, sometimes you just shut the fuck up and go hit on girls, and that's been the most effective thing in my sessions lately.
What about the really hard cases that have problems to approach or shy? You know, what do you do to help those guys?
The really hard cases, actually, I have a lot of success with those because I had a lot of trouble with this myself. I had a lot of social anxiety, and I had to do all kinds of things to get rid of my social anxiety. I mean, really extreme stuff that I don't even want to get into here. It's a long story, but I've developed a series of exercises. I call them the 18 degrees of social freedom, because there's social freedom and there's social anxiety, and they're opposites. And there's a scale of social freedom to social anxiety. And if you can increase your social freedom, your results are going to get better. You're going to open easier. You're going to be more comfortable around new people, meeting your friends, going on dates. It helps every part of the game. So I've formulated this system and put it all into a little seminar with exercises. I call it How to Beat Approach Anxiety, and it's on my website, bradp.com. So, you know, these exercises, I have guys do them sometimes if they're really, like you say, a tough case. And they start out real easy, you know, real simple things that you can do just to shake off a little bit of anxiety. And it's not about pushing yourself or doing anything that makes you uncomfortable. You know, there's a time to push yourself, but
when you're beating social anxiety, I think it's more about going slow and steady. Do these exercises. If you can only get through the first 4, do the first 4, and then try again another day. You know, and take it slow. And if you do it all the time, you can beat social anxiety. But I think it's all about, you know, finding little ways to slowly get rid of your social anxiety, and also finding out if it's possible that you might have, you know, some people have an anxiety disorder, and if you have an anxiety disorder, you should probably see a doctor or a psychiatrist or something like that. I mean, I know guys who had worked with psychiatrists who have helped them really reduce their social anxiety. So approach anxiety, I guess, is what the community focuses on. You know, that's kind of the catchphrase. I like to treat it more holistically and deal with the, you know, the more global topic of social anxiety, because it affects you not only when you're gaming, but if you have social anxiety, it affects you all the time, you know, at parties, with your family, at work. And I try to help people with that, you know, global problem of not knowing how to socialize and feeling nervous and feeling bad all the time, and get them to the point where they can feel good about themselves and they can feel good interacting with other people. And that's one of the coolest things about being a coach, you know, just being able to change someone's life the same way I changed my own life with these exercises and systems.
You know, I often get emails from guys who are who unfortunately really didn't have any proper social education when they were growing up, and I would imagine that you probably have a number of clients that come to see you, and they just really are really socially backward. I mean, how do you get them up to speed?
Yeah, I didn't have any good social education. So I was starting from zero. You know, I was a geek of the year. I mean, I couldn't even talk to people. I get a lot of students who work in, you know, IT. They're computer programmers. They write code all day. And those guys, I think there's something about that job and that way of thinking that kind of trains the brain to not be very social. And I find that those guys, since they're working in a solitary manner for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, it really does create a lot of problems when they try to learn social skills. So mainly what I try to do with people is just give them a curriculum to follow where they can learn these things over the course of 12 months or so. I don't think it's really an overnight success kind of thing. I mean, if you take a workshop and you're there for 3 days, you're going to learn some stuff, but it takes consistent effort to really build this skill. So I give guys a 12-month curriculum. I call it the 30-30 Club because you're supposed to meet 30 girls every 30 days. And I think that's a reasonable pace to work out. I mean, 30 girls a month isn't that much. When I was learning, I would hit on that many girls in 2 or 3 days, you know? But if you slowly work your way through that curriculum, you'll learn all the social skills you need to learn. And it's a multifaceted thing. How to talk to girls, how to meet other guys who have common interests with you, things like that. So I just try to take it slow and address every area of social skills and, you know, keep people on a curriculum where they're focused. They're not learning from 12 different coaches and reading 80 different newsletters. You know, I tell people if they're going to be serious about this to follow one curriculum, whether or not it's my curriculum, just stick to one so you don't confuse yourself. I did a report a couple of years ago called The Forbidden Truth, and it's basically an expose of what's holding people back from learning faster in the seduction community. Did you happen to see that report, Cliff?
If I did, it was a while ago, and I don't really remember anything specific from it.
Okay, so a lot of the problem with the seduction community is people don't go in field that much, and they read from so many different sources. They have so many different opinions, and they can't put any of them together. So the first rule I give to people who want to learn faster is, if you're going to study for an hour, you know, read newsletters, go on forums, whatever it's going to be, you need to spend 2 hours in the field for every 1 hour you spend studying. And if you don't spend 2 hours in the field using that information that you took in and turning it into a real skill set, you are going to clog your brain with too much information. And when you clog your brain, the information starts to change because you haven't used it, and it spoils. And all of the things that, you know, some coach might have taught you that it might be on the money when you read it, you start to color those and change those with your own bad ideas. I mean, let's face it, guys who are not picking up girls very much are really struggling in this area. The problem is that they have bad ideas. They have wrong ideas. I had bad ideas. My idea was be really nice to girls and they'll suck your dick all the time. Well, that was a bad idea, and I didn't want to let go of it. So the trick to this game is, how quickly can you let go of your bad ideas? How fast can you abandon them and get the good ideas? That's the only thing that separates me from one of my students. The reason they're paying me and I'm not paying them is because I've internalized the right ideas and abandoned the wrong ideas. So guys take in tons of ideas. They spoil in your brain like milk that's been in the fridge for 4 months. And then when they go in the field, their brain is just, you know, kind of doing backflips. They're like, okay, I'm in the field, so I got to do an opener, but be natural, but go direct, but do a neg hit. And they're thinking all these things at once. And it's just, you just can't do it that way. You have to pick one technique or one curriculum and work on it all the time. And do 2 hours in the field for every hour of studying. If you stick to that rule, that ratio, you're going to really learn a lot. But if you're going to just read a bunch of stuff and never go in the field, I mean, you might as well forget it. You know, you can read all you want. It's not going to do anything. It will move you backwards in some cases. You can move backwards just by reading too much and studying too much and not doing anything with it. You become worse because you become weird, because you're misapplying techniques. You're acting weird, trying to do some stuff you don't know how to do because you haven't practiced it. And that's how we get seduction community weirdos. You know, they just don't have enough field time and they've read too much stuff.
Well, you know, you referenced before No More Mr. Nice Guy. You know, I think there's obviously a balance between being the jerk and being the nice guy, that because I think nobody wants to really be evil, actually, and when they go out and try and meet women. But you know, some guys, obviously, when they treat women badly, that works for some people. But what's how do you sort of cure the nice guy syndrome when guys, you know, you meet some of your clients that are just unfortunately too nice?
It's one of the hardest things to cure. And the reason why is nice guys, they are so stubborn. I mean, I had nice guy syndrome, but once I read that book, I was willing to throw it all in the trash. I was willing to empty my cup, erase my entire chalkboard of ideas, and start from scratch. And a lot of guys with nice guy syndrome, they refuse to give up this idea that being really nice to girls will get you laid. Nice guys are perceived as submissive. And that is the whole problem. And women want guys who are dominant. Now, is it possible to be dominant and still be nice? Yes, it is possible. And that's what I've actually learned to do myself. I mean, I treat women well these days. I have a girlfriend right now and I treat her great, but I don't let her get out of hand. I don't let her boss me around. And even if I'm out teaching pickup and women, you know, they like to mouth off. I mean, I'm hitting on them with some crazy shit. They say some crazy shit back to me. You know, and I don't take any crap from anyone. I will make fun of girls, you know, pretty relentlessly if I need to. You know, and you have to just be willing to be flexible. Sometimes you're going to be nice, and sometimes you're going to be a little on the jerky side, but it's all in good fun. And that's the thing that makes being quote unquote a jerk okay, is if you do it with good intentions, the intentions to have fun and make the girl laugh and make yourself laugh and keep everybody entertained, I think it can be fine. And you got to be assertive, and you can't let people push you around, and you just can't act submissive towards women. And that's so important. A lot of these things I'm saying, you know, there's very fine distinctions. Like, you can be chivalrous towards women. You can open doors and you can do things like that. You can buy a girl a drink if she already likes you. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't be submissive. You can't put her on a pedestal. You can't act like she is the, you know, a god among men. Because that's what women get a lot. And you have to treat her like you've met a lot of girls just like her. You know, when I meet a really, really beautiful girl, I'm thinking to myself, all right, this is a girl who's very attractive, but you know, she's probably got some problems, and a lot of guys have dumped her, and maybe she's got some sexual hang-ups, and you know, I'm maybe a little jaded about beautiful girls at this point, but I know them. I've dealt with so many of them. They all got their issues, and so I don't meet them and worship them. There's a thing in mainstream psychology, and it's called the halo effect. The halo effect says this. It says, if somebody is good looking, we tend to attribute other positive qualities to them, such as being intelligent, being wealthy, being a good person, having good morals. So the reason why a lot of these attractive girls can just kind of go through life, you know, with everyone kissing their ass, is that this halo effect is working, and guys are just like, well, she's beautiful, therefore she must be perfect in every way. But it's not the case. And I try to take a more realistic view of women, and I'll treat them good, but I'm not going to like treat them like they're like some perfect being, you know. And that's a lot harder for guys to learn who have nice guy syndrome, because they've spent many years thinking to themselves, oh my God, if I could get a hot blonde girl, I would do anything for her. I'd buy her whatever she wants. I would compliment her all day long. And the thing that they're failing to realize is women don't want a guy like that. I mean, think about it. Slow down and actually think about it. If you're a woman and you're, you know, generally kind of insecure, because most women are, and kind of flying by the seat of your pants, because most women are, why would you want a guy around who's just worshiping you and buying you stuff and giving you compliments? It makes a girl uncomfortable, because it's so out of sync with the way she views herself that it's just annoying. You know, hot girls, this is how hot girls think. Some days they think they are gorgeous, and other days they think they are ugly. And women's self opinion fluctuates even throughout the day, from 10 minutes to the, you know, 10 minutes later, this hot girl thinks she's a dog. So you just can't take any of that stuff that seriously. And that's the problem with being nice. You know, women just don't like it. It's not practical. It's annoying as fuck. So guys are slow to accept that reality. They're clinging to this nice guy idea. I can just be nice, and this is what I want to do, and it's never going to work any other way. Well, let it go, man. Forget it. Just empty your cup. Let some new ideas into your head. The quicker that you can get rid of your old ideas, the more room you're going to have for new ideas that work better. Well,
it's not easy to convert somebody from failure to success, I guess. But I'm sure you have some clients that learn faster than others. Is there some? It sounds like the ones that are able to just turn off their thinking and just listen to what you tell them to do are the ones that have the most success.
Yeah, and you know, some guys have natural advantages as well, you know, so that is a factor. But yeah, if somebody can just, you know, turn off their brain and follow the curriculum. In 30/30 Club, I have a forum, obviously, and we all post on there and talk to each other. And the guys that will just, you know, shut up, stop arguing, and do what the curriculum says, I mean, they do great. They get pussy all the time. People aren't used to that, though. You know, they want to do it their own way, or they want to follow some other coach. I mean, if you're gonna learn this stuff, pick a coach and stick with it, and shut the fuck up and do whatever he says. If you do that, and you're using a, you know, legit coach that has a legit method, I mean, there's many of them. If you can do that, you're going to learn really fast. But don't be stubborn. Don't try to cling to your old bad ideas. If you haven't gotten results in this area yet, you are full of bad ideas, and you have to accept that. You're doing some things that are wrong and stupid, and you need to not do those anymore. You need to change your behaviors. You need to change your clothes. You need to change your personality. I don't teach guys to, you know, be themselves, as they say. Be yourself. It's like terrible advice. First of all, it's not very specific. You don't know what to do when somebody tells you that, and it's never gotten you laid in the past. So I encourage you to change yourself. If your personality is not working, ditch it and get a new one. That's what I did. I used to be a complete dork, and now people, you know, some people actually find me cool. Not everyone, but some people. And I've gotten all the girls I've ever wanted to get. I mean, I've had more pussy than any man wants, needs, or deserves at this point. But a lot of that has to do with just scrapping my old personality and just being like, you know what, I'm not going to cling to that anymore. I'm going to do something new, and I'm going to be a new guy. And, you know, there were friends of mine who didn't want to accept the new version of me, and they hassled me a little bit about it in the beginning. But after a couple months, everybody accepted it, and everybody was cool with it. And, you know, after a few bumps in the road, I have to say that I am much happier. And that's what you got to think about. Make yourself happy. Get the personality that you want to have. You don't owe it to anybody to stay the same person forever. You don't owe that to your parents or to your brother or to your friends. I mean, you can change anytime you want, and you can get a new personality if the one that you have now isn't working for you and it isn't getting you what you want in life. So, like I said, a lot of people don't like what I teach because it's a little drastic and it's a little extreme, and that's okay. I'm not, my kind of coaching is not for everyone. It's for people who want extreme results and they're willing to do extreme things to get those results. So that's what I found that works. It works for me. It works for my students. And if you don't want something that extreme and you just want to kind of, you know, be yourself and stuff, I'm just not the guy for you. But if you're willing to try new stuff and have an adventure, head over to bradp.com, because that's the kind of guys we're looking for.
Can you give us an example of something extreme that you might have somebody do that people might be a little surprised to hear?
Well, I think just the idea of scrapping your entire personality and getting a new one is a little extreme. You know, I mean, some of the social freedom exercises are a bit extreme. Some of the openers are a little extreme, not all of them, but some of them. I mean, I teach a system for having sex with girls 10 minutes or less after you meet them. So that, I think, is probably one of the most extremes. One of the naturals I learned from, he could have sex with women in 10 minutes or less. And I learned how he did it, and I interviewed him, and I made a whole, you know, I put out a product called 10-Minute Seduction, where he breaks it all down. It's about a 3-hour interview. And I think that's pretty extreme, you know. It's not for everyone, but if you want to fuck girls in 10 minutes or less, you know, you should check out 10-Minute Seduction. So it's a little extreme. It's not for everyone, but hey, it's really fun. If you've never tried it, I mean, just try it once. Go fuck a girl in 10 minutes or less. It's super fun. It's mind-blowing stuff.
Well, it sounds like though you now have a girlfriend, so I guess your views of relationships play into all of this as well. I'm assuming that that's evolved from when you really didn't know anything about women to now where you have quite a bit of experience with them. How do you view relationships these days?
Yeah, I mean, to me, having a girlfriend is a huge part of the game. It's a huge part of learning the game. I remember in the old days, people used to think you're supposed to just cold approach every day, fuck girls, never call them again. And I just never really agreed with that. I always thought, you know, going on dates and having relationships was a huge part of learning the game and learning how women think and how they operate and all this female psychology. There's only so much you're going to learn in cold approach, and you do need to go on dates and have relationships and even have a girlfriend. In my case, I did a lot of cold approach. I had a lot of one-night stands. I had a lot of multiple long-term girls. You know, I had at one point a 10-girl rotation, which I found exhausting. And it wasn't as fun as I thought it would be. So I brought it down to 5. But yeah, over the last 12 years or 15 years since I've had game, I've usually had, you know, anywhere from 3 to 5 girls in rotation with occasional breaks to have a girlfriend. And I've been able to keep a girlfriend a year or 2. I mean, right now the girl I'm with is really amazing. I mean, she's so spectacular. I can't even believe she's dating me. She's fucking, I mean, I'm not the best looking guy. This girl is really attractive. She's definitely out of my league looks wise. But it's being in a relationship. there's a part of it that is a battle. You know, you have to maintain the power in the relationship, or the girl's not going to be attracted to you anymore. And the longer the relationship goes on, the more the girl is going to try to turn you beta. And in my opinion, women are at their happiest when they have a strong, powerful guy that they know is in charge and has the majority of the power in the relationship. And I think, you know, David Shade talks a lot about that. David D'Angelo in the old days used to teach that, and I teach it as well. Keep the power in the relationship, be really good to the girl, but make sure she knows you're in charge, and be ready to deal with her outbursts. I mean, women are really emotional. You got to be able to deal with her outbursts without getting worked up yourself. You got to stay calm. You got to be, you know, that's what women say they want. They want a guy who's their rock. And what women mean when they say that is they want a guy who doesn't get all emotional when they get all emotional. Women are on an emotional roller coaster, and they don't want you to be on one too. So I just try to stay really cool with my girl. When she's having a crisis, I stay calm. I stay in charge. I stay dominant over her. It works really well. So guys, if you have a girlfriend, do not turn into a pussy. The game is not over. The game is just beginning. You have to stay dominant. That's pretty much the most important thing, in my opinion.
Well, one thing I like to ask guys who've been successful having multiple relationships at the same time is, you know, what's your method of keeping several women around at the same time without them, without them revolting or leaving you or whatever, you know?
Yeah, man, I would have thought that was impossible, you know, but it's so simple. It's really simple. So here's the rules you got to stick to. Rule number 1, don't go on vacation with them. Rule number 2, don't meet their parents or their family. Rule number 3, don't hang out with them more than once or twice a week. Rule number 4, don't talk and text every day. If you can stick to those rules, you're not going to have too many problems as far as getting what I call a DTR. Define the relationship speech. You know, the thing that brings on a DTR speech from a girl, you guys know what they are. It's like, hey, I was just wondering, are we officially boyfriend and girlfriend yet? And where is this going? And blah, blah, blah. That's when a girl is asking you to define the relationship. So in order to avoid that, you just need to not trigger her instinct that it's getting serious. And triggering her instinct happens by your actions. Your words don't really matter. I've seen a lot of guys try to tell a girl, hey, this isn't serious, but then they fuck her 4 times a week and she hits them with a DTR because your words don't matter. Women don't listen. They will not listen to your words. They only read your actions. When they go out to Sunday brunch with their friends, 3 girls will sit at a table and say, so how's your relationship going? Is it getting serious? And they all put pressure on each other to be in a serious relationship. And then they start analyzing and they'll say, well, how many times a week does he call you? How often does he text you? When do you hang out? Did he meet your parents? And they ask all these things. And those are the things that trigger the DTR. And if you find yourself in the crosshairs in a DTR conversation, there's ways of getting out of that as well. You know, the first thing I usually try to do is let a girl vent, because the reason the girls have this explosion in their mind is because they're feeling a lot of pressure. They're feeling a lot of what's called cognitive dissonance. On the one hand, they really like you. On the other hand, they know it's not serious. And those two things are conflicting, and it gets stronger and stronger. And eventually they can't live with the conflict anymore. And they say, hey, you better get serious with me or we're breaking up, right? I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. So what I try to get a girl to do is talk about it, vent her feelings out, say what she's feeling over and over and over. So she'll explain the whole thing to me, and I'll repeat it back to her to show her that I was listening. And then I'll say, I need you to explain it to me one more time because I want to make sure that I really understand it. And she'll talk about it again, and then I'll try to get her to explain a 3rd time. And after 3 times of explaining it,
in many cases, a girl will just kind of give up on the whole thing. She's vented her feelings. She no longer has cognitive dissonance, and she's ready to move on. So in a lot of cases, getting through a DTR is as simple as letting a girl vent. You know, in other cases, they'll kind of keep at it, and I'll usually say, hey, look, here's the deal. Like, what do you think? Would you be happier getting rid of me, or would you be happier just continuing to hang out with me? And they usually say, oh my God, I love hanging out with you. You're the best, and blah, blah, blah. And usually that's the end of it, you know. And there's more advanced DTR, you know, deflections we can do, which you can learn on the 30/30 forum. But, you know, that's the basics of it. And if you can, you know, I mean, it's not that hard when your game gets good to pick up, you know, a good, I don't know, 3 to 5 girls a month if you're going out all the time. And if you could keep a few of them, I mean, you'll be up to a 5-girl rotation in no time, I've found. I mean, I one time ended up breaking up with a girl, and I built a 4-girl rotation in one weekend. So, you know, it's not that hard. If your pickup skills are there and you're good at, you know, sealing the deal, getting girls in a rotation is not that hard from there.
Maybe I'm still missing it. Like, how do you see it? To me, the biggest thing with women is not lying to them. And that's a very big thing. I find that you can probably get away with almost anything if you don't lie to them about it.
Yeah, I agree.
And in terms of, you know, you're dating this girl for, you know, a couple of months, and you're also dating like 3 or 4 others at the same time. It seems like next to impossible for you to not face the music, call it, at some point, or at least set the frame. And you know, I just, how do you sort of handle that in terms of specifics? Like they you know, they can't just sort of, you know, you can't just sort of avoid the subject forever. I mean, sooner or later, and a lot of times, you know, in fact, one thing that comes to mind immediately is like I've met women. A lot of times I meet women on online, for example, and the first thing out of their mouth is they want to hear that you're serious. And like they won't even meet you sometimes unless they're convinced that this is a serious guy and that you're looking, you know, for a very serious relationship. I mean, you haven't even met the girl, and she's like she's reading you the riot act.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Husband hunters, they call it, right? Well, if I've been seeing a girl a while and she's point blank, are you seeing anyone else? The way I usually handle that is I'm kind of like you. I don't really want to lie to these girls. You know, I'm kind of on the same page as you with that. So, but on the other hand, I don't really feel that the girl, or anyone for that matter, is really entitled to all the details of my private life. So, you know, I'll kind of let her know that. I'll say, listen, as far as I know, you and me aren't exclusive, and until I say we're exclusive, you know, I don't really have to get into this topic with you. I don't have to answer questions like this. You know, what I do in my spare time is my business and nobody else's, and I don't really have to explain that to anyone, you know. So that's the vibe of it. That's the message, but I make it a lot more gentle. I kind of water it down a little, and, you know, I'll let her vent and just, you know, make it as huggy kissy as I can, as gentle as I can, but just let the girl know that, you know, she's not really entitled to that information until I decide to give it. So it's my choice of whether I tell her or not. And she can walk if she wants to walk. You know, that's fine. I can go get a new one, whatever. But I think a lot of girls will respect that if you just give them a boundary and say, hey, you're overstepping my boundaries right now, and this is, you know, kind of forcing me into a corner and into, you know, you're trying to get a serious relationship going here, and this is not the way to do it, by cornering someone and demanding answers, you know. I have a little story that I'll tell girls, you know. I'll say, you know, I used to be really bad with women when I was younger, and then I worked on it a lot, and I got really good with women, but what I found was every time I would get a girlfriend, I would cheat on her. And the reason why I eventually found out was because if I felt pressured into a relationship, then I would always end up cheating.
Whereas if I chose a relationship myself and I asked the girl, you know, to be my girlfriend, I would never end up cheating. So I guess I'm just like a real traditional kind of guy, you know, like I think the man should ask the woman to be exclusive. I don't think the woman should really ask the man, you know, I think it's like kind of the man's job to do that. So, you know, maybe someday you and me will be in some super exclusive thing. Maybe we'll get married and have 8 kids. I don't know. But if we're going to do that, you know, I think that should come about, you know, because you're just drawing me in and being such an amazing girl that I just can't imagine not, you know, tying you down and going exclusive with you. So when we get there, we get there. But I don't think this is a good way to start a serious relationship, by the woman cornering the man and demanding answers. I just don't think it's really proper. You know, it's not really polite. As far as those girls who demand answers on the first date, I mean,
Before the first date.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm trying. I haven't done internet dating in a while. I'm trying to remember. They're like, "Are you looking for an exclusive, a serious relationship?" You know, I'll usually say like, "Yeah, I'm definitely open to that," because the truth is, I am open to it. I mean, when I'm single, if this amazing girl comes by and she's the best thing ever, of course I'm going to go into a serious relationship with her. So I'm open to it. You know, so I'll tell girls that. I mean, what are the chances? Well, you know, some girl who's shotgunning demands before the first date is typically a pretty weak candidate. So, you know, it's probably not going to happen. But hey, anything's possible, you know, and that's the frame I said. I'll be like, sure, anything's possible. I sure hope so. Let's see, man. Let's meet up, and if you're awesome, you know, maybe we'll get married like a week later. You never want to take away hope from these girls. They've made a deal with themselves that they, you know, they're going to get serious. They're going to find a husband. Their parents are pressuring. Their friends are pressuring them. In many cases, they would prefer to play the field. You know, this stale date where two people sit across from a table and say, "I'm looking for a serious relationship," and the girl goes, "I'm looking for a serious relationship." You know, they don't like that. You know, that's not enjoyable for anyone. I think they ask you that question because they've been pressured into it, and in most cases, it's not even what they're hoping for. You know, women are very conflicted. They want to get in a serious relationship, but they also want to have no string attached sex, and they want to find their Romeo, but they also want to get gangbanged, and they also want to like fuck a different guy every night, and they also want to be celibate and just be a Jesus freak. I mean, women are so conflicted these days that if you go into a date trying to cater to everything that she wants, it's never going to work. It's not realistic, because at 6:15 she wants to be monogamous. At 6:30 she's thinking about, you know, fucking you and never calling you again. At 6:45 she wants to go celibate. You know, women are so conflicted and so flighty that it's not a good idea to just cater to every whim and every question and all those kinds of things.
So you need to be a very flexible individual to deal with them from in general, basically.
Yeah, you need to be flexible, and you need to know what you're dealing with. I mean, men can feel, I think men have a lot of guilt, you know, about all this stuff. Like, oh, she wants to get married, and if I'm not gonna marry her, I'm wasting her time. Well, whoa, buddy. If you take a woman that seriously, I mean, you're in for a rude awakening. Because, I mean, I mostly deal with, you know, attractive young women, I guess, and they want everything all at the same time, no matter how much it conflicts. You know, it's like going to a car lot and saying to the guy, "I want you to sell me a Honda, a Dodge, and a Ferrari all in the next 10 minutes, and I'm only going to give you $3,000. Go, do it." You know, that's kind of what these women are asking for us. And so that's why I'm like, all right, if a girl's like, "I want to get serious," I'll say, okay, well, we have to cater for a couple minutes maybe to that part of her that wants to get serious. And don't piss on her parade and tell her it's never going to happen. Just say, hey, I'm open to anything. I fucking hope so. That would be nice for once, you know? And then later that night, she just wants to, you know, get held down and fucked and into some dirty shit, you know? And I'm going to try to go with that. You know, this is the same person. Women are multifaceted. Some women love to have the freedom to have you as a sexual partner, but not have to go monogamous with you. And it's good to, you know, be open to that as well. Just be open to a lot of stuff, and don't take women so seriously when they're making 80 million different demands. It's just not, it's not realistic. You'll live in a world of chaos like they do if you try to do that.
So how do you reconcile their wide range of I guess desires and directions with getting serious with someone?
Well, I get serious when I want to do it, not when they want to do it. And I get serious with the girl I want to get serious with. It's kind of all about me. You know, if a girl wants to get serious with me and I don't really want to get serious with her, in my opinion, she doesn't have the game and she doesn't have the value to lure me in. And that's not really my problem. I mean, when I had no game and I had no value, tons of different women were just telling me to get lost and friend zoning me and treating me like shit. I mean, so I think, you know, if you have an inflated sense of what you deserve, that's not my problem. You know, a lot of girls that wanted to get serious with me, they couldn't figure out how to get me interested enough. And I don't think that it's my job to make all their dreams come true. Every single girl that I meet, you know, I think it's on them to figure out how to make me get serious, how to draw me in and get me interested enough. That is their responsibility. My responsibility is to get in their pants and have a good time and see where it goes. As far as me getting serious, I mean, that's really up to them to figure out how to solve that Rubik's Cube. And if they can't figure it out, I don't really feel sorry for them. You know, it's something that it's a skill that they have to learn, or find a guy who's more compatible, or find a guy with lower standards. That's it.
There's definitely been a trend among a lot of guys these days towards more open relationships. That
Yeah.
You know, that they've disconnected sex and love, and that I find, you know, becoming more and more common these days. And there's actually a lot of common sense to that approach. Whether you can emotionally deal with it or not is another question. But there is a lot of common sense that that not tying you know, fidelity to a relationship, that, you know, there's a lot of things to be said for that. Is that something that you subscribe to, or is that really just something that you look at it differently?
I really take it on a case-by-case basis, you know. I mean, some open relationships work really well, some don't. I mean, there's some people that you can only be with if you're going to be, you know, monogamous. I mean, after a certain amount of time, or else it won't work for you or for the other person. I think every person is different and every relationship is different. And the whole point of this stuff is to enjoy yourself and have fun and be happy. And if you're not happy with what you're doing, then try another girl or try another situation. The other thing you have to take into consideration is that you, as a man, will go through changes and you'll go through different phases. Maybe in 2017, you want, you know, a polyamorous relationship where you're really, you know, having sex with 3 or 4 girls, but there's one who you're in love with and she has sex with 3 or 4 guys. And if that's the right thing for you at this time, then do it. I'm all for it. Maybe in 2 or 3 years from now, you're not going to want to do that anymore. You're just going to want to have one night stands. And that's all. Maybe they get round 2 once in a while. And then a few years later, maybe you want to do something monogamous. You never know. So I think search yourself and find out what you're most interested in, what is going to be the most fun for you, and follow that instinct and do what you think is going to be the most fun thing for you.
Well, that's been, I think that's a good way to approach things. Maybe you want to take a minute now and tell people a little bit about, your coaching, your products that you may have. What is it that they can go to the next level with you on?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we do have to wrap this up. You know, it's Valentine's Day, Cliff, and I have a lady waiting for me in the next room, and you probably have one either waiting by the phone or something if I know you. So, bradp.com is my website, and we try to make everything really affordable. We have a section called Free Stuff, and you can get a lot of good information from the Free Stuff section. I have a blog. You can get good info from there. If you are, you like what you hear and you want to be a serious student, my 30/30 Club, I think it's about $70 a month. It's really affordable, I think. And if you stick to that and you meet 30 girls every month, we're going to change your life. We're going to change a lot of things about you in terms of how you come across, how you dress, how you act, how you talk. And it's a slow and gradual change. It's not going to make you that uncomfortable or I mean, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone sometimes, but I try to make it as gentle as I can, because you are going to go through a lot of changes, but you don't need to do it all in one day. Stretch it out over the course of a year so that the changes really stick and they stay with you and they're not too painful. They're just feeling, gradual and acceptable, and it just feels really good to go through changes, month by month, and be able to look back 5-6 months and say, wow, I'm so different than I was now. And it was easy to get here. And that's what I try to do in 30/30, just give people an easy roadmap where they only have to work a few hours a week on their game. I mean, if you got 5 hours a week and $70 a month, you can be a superstar if you just stick to the curriculum and do what it says. If you're a tough case, you can get on a phone call with me. Just email me or the customer service guy and let us know you want to get on a phone session. In phone sessions, I deal with some of the more unusual problems. Everybody's different. And some people have some problems that, you might not want to talk to just anyone about. And I've heard it all over the years. So if something weird's going on and you feel like, you need some help with it and you don't want to tell just anybody, I'm your guy. It's confidential. I've heard it all before. I've heard every weird story. I'm obsessed with this girl, or my dick don't work, or blah, 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 blah. Whatever the story is, I've heard it before. And I probably know how to handle it. So there's that. And I also do infield coaching. I've been doing infield coaching, I think since 2004 or early 2005. I've been doing it a long time, never stopped doing it. I mean, all these books that I write and seminars that I give are based on infield coaching. So I have coaches all over the world. We do one-on-ones. I'm in LA. I have a coach in New York. I have a coach in New Orleans. I have a coach in Australia. I have a coach in England, in London. So anywhere in the world you are, you can probably get to me or one of my coaches, and we just dig in and do it right there, in the flesh. I'll hit on girls right in front of you, show you what I do, show you my real game and how it works, and try to get your game under control as well. So, there's every level. Whether you want to just grab my free stuff or whether you want to, spend big money on coaching is up to you. But I put a lot of care into my coaching, and every seminar that I give and every book that I write, it comes from the heart, and it also comes from field experience. Everything I teach, I've tried myself. I've taught to many, many students before I'm willing to, commit it to a permanent record. And I won't teach you the things that only work for me. I'm going to teach you the things that can work for you. And that's what I think a great coach does. So I'm available. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm going to be doing it a lot longer, I think. And thanks to Cliff also for kind of bringing me to the world. I mean, you gave me the exposure that really led to a lot of this, Cliff. So I know I've said it before, but I really do appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that that helped, definitely. I want to, I guess, let people know that if you do buy something from Brad, that you should send him and me an email that you did so because of learning about him through Cliff's List, and as a thank you for that, I will send you a free additional Cliff's List bonus product just for having done that. So if you do have the good sense to pursue more education from Brad, please let us both know about it. And I definitely look forward to hearing your comments about the good experiences you have with him. Brad, I want to take this moment to thank you for taking the time to spend with me and tell me a little bit about what you've been up to these days, and your coaching and your thoughts on women and relationships, and hoping we'll be doing more of these type of things together soon again.
Yeah, let's do it again as soon as we can. I love talking to you. I mean, it's great to talk to somebody who's been at it since the old days like I have. I mean, the seduction community is not as big as it used to be. So just hearing all the old terms and old mindsets, it's really great, because I mean, it was just an amazing time. That era of seduction and learning and getting tons of girls. I mean, it was just such an amazing time. So let's do this again real soon.
That'd be great. All right. Well, we'll end it here, and we'll talk again soon.